Welcome into our fourth and a little delayed episode of The Latest with Devin and Brendan. I'm Devin Dobek alongside Brendan McLaughlin, ready to keep you updated and get you back in the loop. We know we've taken 2 weeks off, a lot going on, busy 2 weeks, but we're back and ready to get back to it. So let's get right into it. Patriots had a great game against the Giants on Thursday Night Football last week. A lot went good. The defense looked great. Brendan, what'd you love about this game?
Well, I'm going to start off with what I didn't love. Patriots, they kept the Giants in the game for so long. Literally, into the third quarter, it was 21-14, but Daniel Jones had his first rookie game, literally a rookie game, with 3 interceptions on just forced balls that he was just trying to throw, trying to get some momentum against this Pats defense. That's insane. But honestly, the Patriots, the first half was kind of sloppy. Tom Brady looked a little out of rhythm with his receivers because, honestly, I still think Antonio Brown is affecting this team or this offense because they literally spent maybe a week and a half just trying to baby him into this offense, and now they're just probably just trying to recuperate everything that they learned the first 2 weeks of the season and also preseason. But the second half, they really picked it up, and I loved what I saw.
Yeah, I think the offense was lacking a little bit in the first half, but you had a little help from Chase Winovich with the punt block, touchdown. That was really cool to see. That defense I think they're if you put them in with the wide receivers, I think they're fourth in points in fantasy. They've just been absolutely balling, and it's great to see a good Pats defense because we haven't seen one since the birth of the century, I'd say. So great to see that from them. And the offense, Tom Brady looked a little out of sync, but he got a little help. Sony Michel finally had a decent game. Not a great game, but he had a decent game.
You can't hate on Sony Michel either. The Pats O-line's been a work in progress ever since Isaiah Wynn went down, and they've had to do reshuffling everywhere. And David Andrews, of course, anchor of that offensive line. But it's not Sony Michel's fault. He's still a good running back, and he'll bounce back.
Yeah, and I think Tom's looked a little not like himself. Like the first half of the Redskins. Remember, we're backtracking 2 weeks here, so the first half of that Redskins game and then the first half of this game, he looked a little sloppy. What do you think has been affecting that? What does he need to do to get dialed back in?
I don't know. It's just Tom Brady usually goes through his ups and downs, and then usually by the second half of the season he'll figure it out. What was it, two years ago or last year, Patriots struggled right out of the gate. It seems like Tom Brady usually has a slower start of the season, but once he gets back into the routine of things, he turns it up like he usually does.
Yeah, and we got a great Monday Night Football showdown between the Pats and the Jets. Sam Darnold back from mono. This will be his second week back, but I think it's going to be a 2-score game, Brennan. We'll both be there at MetLife. Very excited to be a part of that experience. But what do the Patriots need to do to keep the Jets out of it and not even make it a close game, Brennan?
To not make it a close game, Le'Veon Bell is always a threat. Backtracking to his Steelers days, he always gave Patriots fits. But honestly, the deep threat with Robbie Anderson, he really exploited that Cowboys defense, caught them sleeping a lot. And Patriots, I don't think they're going to be caught sleeping, so to say, but they might overlook this offense a little bit in the beginning of the game and then just try to hold them down for the first half. And then once the second half comes, the Jets will probably get depleted with how good this probably Patriots
The Jets defeated the Cowboys 24-22, as you said, so they have a little momentum carrying into this week. And obviously one of their bigger rivals, the New England Patriots. I think we're going to have a good game on hand. I think, like you said, it'll be a close game in the first half, and then I'd say the Patriots will pull away, win by 2 scores in the second half. If Jamal Adams shows up to play, Sam Darnold has a good game. He was last week Offensive Player of the Week in the AFC. So I think we could have a better game than some people might think. And a lot of people argue that the Patriots' strength of schedule hasn't been very strong. I feel like they would be true in saying that, but
it's a pretty weak, 6-0, so to say, if that's it. Because the Steelers was going to be a potential threat, but they did not look good at all that first game.
And then they've had Redskins, Dolphins, Bills. Bills is a good opponent, I would say. The Jets, the Giants. So not a lot of competition. You could argue the Bills a little bit, and you could argue the Steelers a little bit.
Yeah, but with this Patriots offense, the Jets this week get back C.J. Mosley. He's been a big piece of that Ravens defense for a while. Then now he comes over to the Jets, and he was having a great first 2 games, and then he goes out with an injury. But he could be a spark plug to this Jets defense against a kind of struggling Patriots
Very
offense.
excited for this one, but I really think the Patriots could get a scare. The Jets, dating back for 3-4 years now, they always give Patriots a scare no matter what their record is. So I think we'll have a better game. 8:15 Monday night. Looking forward to it. So now around the league, obviously one of the biggest headlines, Jalen Ramsey traded to the Los Angeles Rams for 2 first-round picks and a 4th-round pick. That will leave the Rams with no first-round picks for 5 years in a row.
Yeah, they basically have no future.
But they're going all in here. They got Jalen Ramsey, What do you think about this move for the Rams, Brian?
Well, they got rid of a, in my perspective, not so good. A kind of regress corner Marcus Peters straight into the Ravens, and put Aqib Talib on IR. They needed to shake something up with this Rams defense because the Rams haven't really looked good for a Super Bowl contender last year, and coming back into this year, they thought they'd be right back where they were last year. But this year, there's really not a lot going to them. So honestly, maybe a top 3 corner in the league, Jalen Ramsey, can really turn something on this Rams defense around. And of course, they have one of the best defensive coordinators all time, Wade Phillips. And Wade Phillips with a toy like this, that's scary to see.
Yeah, and they just came off a loss to the 49ers. The Rams did. They're 3-3 now. I'm kind of surprised that we've seen a Rams team like that. Started 3-0, lost 3 straight. This is not the Super Bowl team we've seen from last year. What's changed since then?
Well, Jared Goff, honestly, has been a big focal point of that. He's been very inconsistent, trying to force a lot of things, but honestly, the production from the wide receivers, like Robert
Even
Woods,
Todd Gurley hasn't been 100%.
They haven't really had a running game either. Last year, they relied heavy on that running game. That's probably a good point why Todd Gurley's not 100%, because last year he just basically got, let's just say one sequence last year, that Todd Gurley got 98% of the snaps the ball was given to him during a game last year, which obviously is going to tire someone out, even if it's the best running back in the league. But honestly, Jared Goff, not there this season at all. Offensive line hasn't looked good because they've had Whitworth that retired. He's been an anchor on that offensive line for the past 4 years now, and then now that blind side's just getting attacked.
How are you feeling about their chances making a postseason run this year with this new acquisition, with how they've played thus far? I think they'll go to the NFC Championship still, even though they're a 500 team now. I think they will, but I think it'll be a wild card unless the 49ers have a drastic choke all of a sudden.
No, it's just the Rams. If their defense picks it up, they can honestly probably carry this Rams offense, because they did it multiple times last year when the Jared Goff was having his struggles. But if this defense gets up to par and Jared Goff can play substantial football, they'll be fine.
And you got to think they have the best player in football, arguably, Aaron Donald at defensive tackle, but their defense, hopefully this will spark them a little bit. Marcus Peters, Jalen Ramsey, obviously Jalen Ramsey's better, but I don't know. Marcus Peters is a good corner, and I'm not sure how much this move's going to help them.
It's just Aqib Talib got put on IR, and he's another good corner, but Jalen Ramsey can obviously fill a void that they have. But honestly, with the Rams getting to the playoffs, they have the Seahawks and the 49ers in their division. Mm-hmm. That's going to be hard to beat.
You never know, though. You never know. So, speaking of the 49ers, how legit do you think that this 5-0 team is? I mean, they got a good defense, but I think they're too young to make a run. I really do.
Yeah, the Kyle Shanahan's not really an experienced head coach, and Jimmy Garoppolo, obviously coming from the New England system, has a lot of potential. But I'm just saying, if this defense, they're playing at a really high level right now, but they have some young studs on that defense which can easily break that momentum, and they can show their struggles because of how young they are. So, if this defense starts regressing, I don't think this offense can really pick up the slack.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I think Jimmy Garoppolo is still a little too young, and they have a really young offense with Dante Pettis, Marquise Goodwin. Matt Breida's put in some good production for them, Tevin Coleman, George Kittle. I think they got to get Kittle going a little more, though. He hasn't had as many touches as he did last year.
Yeah.
Maybe find him a little more. But I don't know. Do you think the 49ers are legit? I feel like they got pretty much a bye week in the Redskins coming up this week. Do you think that they're going to be a legit team and be able to make a postseason run?
Yeah, I think their biggest win so far was against the Rams. They really shut down the Rams for that whole entire. After they scored that touchdown in their opening drive, the Rams barely got past midfield. So that was a really point they made against the Rams. But the Rams are struggling so far. They haven't really played someone that's really that good. The Browns, so to say, they're supposed to be an AFC contender this year, but they're. I can't even get into them.
We'll get into them later, but let's talk about this man first, who has probably been the alpha quarterback to Baker Mayfield, considering the age. They're similar in age. Lamar Jackson. I believe that they're leading their division over the Steelers, the Browns, and the Bengals. And their Browns were probably their biggest competition, and they steamrolled them. How do you feel about this Ravens team? Do you think they're a little young? Obviously, you said they just acquired Marcus Peters. What do you think?
I keep saying that Lamar Jackson's just going to start degressing of what he's playing right now, but he's just keep proving me wrong. Every single game he's played, the defenses in the NFL cannot figure out this guy. Harbaugh has really made this offense substantial around Lamar Jackson with his rushing factor. Like, he's on pace to beat Michael Vick's record for all-time rushing in a season, maybe by the 12th game.
And to add to that, he's the first quarterback in the Super Bowl era to rush for over 150 yards, 152, and pass for over 200 at 236. And that is very impressive, especially for a second, third-year guy in the league.
Yeah, and he's also making players around him better. Like Mark Andrews, he's been cut from multiple teams, but now since he landed with the Ravens, he's the number 5 tight end in the league right now. And then another rookie paired with him, Marquise Brown. He's a deep threat every single time, and if Lamar Jackson can let one go, it's always to that guy.
And Mark Ingram's looked good. I mean, still turning the wheels, even with his older age. I think he's looked really good, and a lot of people didn't expect to see that from Mark Ingram.
Yeah, there's a lot of pieces on this Ravens offense that can make this motor go, but their defense is still pretty good too, with Earl Thomas anchoring that, the new acquired Marcus Peters. Their defense is scary too, so the Ravens are really a team to look out for.
Yeah, I definitely think so. Now, the other team in their division, the Cleveland Browns, seems like they're slipping back to a bit of their old ways. Baker Mayfield leading the 2-4 team. He has 13 interceptions. That leads the league. I really am not a huge Browns supporter, and I don't think they're going to even make the playoffs. How do you feel about the Browns right now with everything that, Odell and Jarvis, but
I didn't understand the hype going into the season anyway. They have the playmakers, don't get me wrong, but Odell hasn't been around a winning environment. Baker Mayfield, definitely not winning environment. And the Cleveland Browns in general, last time they made the playoffs was maybe the early 2000s. You can check me on that, but it hasn't been recently. But Freddie Kitchens hasn't really seemed to make a scheme that fits this Browns offense. And the Browns defense, like Myles Garrett has had a great season so far. He's number 2 in sacks with 8 already. He's playing the way everyone wanted him to, but it's just the defense around him. Like Denzel Ward getting injured doesn't help, but it just seems like they're getting exploited by their weaknesses every single game.
Yeah, definitely agree with you. I don't think the Browns will make a postseason run unless they have a drastic turnaround, and I'd say that loss to Baltimore was pretty big.
Yeah.
But moving on into the NHL, the red-hot Avalanche, they got their first loss last night to Pittsburgh, but a lot of young talent, Cale Makar, Nathan McKinnon, Gabriel Landeskog, their captain's so great. How do you feel about the Avalanche? Because with their youth and production throughout the season,
it seems like every single season in the NHL there's this one standout team that's led by younger stars. Like Cale Makar, right out of college, basically made an impact in the playoffs last year. Nathan McKinnon, a high overall draft pick, he had a slow start in his first season, but he's skyrocketed since then. Landeskog always a key on that, even back in the Matt Duchene days when he was on the team, he was still being productive, and then now he's, so to say, a veteran now on this team for how young they are. But honestly, like, they're really good. Like, I didn't expect them to be this good out of the gate, but they're really fast, and a lot of the teams in the NHL are getting older, and there's nothing like a speed team.
And they're second in the NHL power rankings only to the Boston Bruins, led by David Pastrnak, who just came off a 4-point game. Or a 4-goal game, rather.
Yeah, Bruins won 4-0, and this guy put up 4 goals.
Yeah, so the Boston Bruins, they got a big game against the Tampa Bay Lightning tonight. I'm surprised how highly they're ranked, taking into consideration the Capitals, the Lightning, the Maple Leafs. You got all those teams, but the Bruins topping all of them. How do you feel about them this season, Brennan? I feel like they've been a little slow, few 1-goal wins.
Yeah. They've gotten lucky with some wins, but they're really playing with a chip on their shoulder. Like last year, a lot of people believe that they had that Stanley Cup in the bag, but all things to say, the St. Louis Blues really outplayed them in the last final stretch of that series. But the Bruins are out here to prove that they can play better. Honestly, with the closing windows with Bergeron, Krejci, and Chara getting older, I think the Bruins are realizing that their years are limited, and then now they're trying to make a run.
So what do you think about David Backes? He's been playing a little bit on the fourth line. He former captain of the St. Louis Blues, used to be a top 20 center in the NHL, maybe even top 10, if you will. How do you feel about him? Do you think the Bruins should keep him, give him another shot, or what do you think about David
I feel like David Backes, obviously his play has regressed, but he's a leader in the locker room. Mm-hmm. Obviously, as you said, a captain for the St. Louis Blues. But his style of play is something the NHL is lacking. Like NHL, if you watch today, it's more centered around speed and athleticism, and younger players. Like that's why the Avalanche are thriving right now.
Yeah, Panarin, McKinnon, all those guys.
Yeah, but if
Type
Bacchus can provide a spark off that fourth line, maybe say like they're having a slow game and then he just beats the crap out of someone, that'll obviously make the Bruins have a higher energy level and lead to more production.
Yeah, and honestly, if we're talking about production, let's talk about Jarl Halak, who's looked absolutely great between the pipes, and he's our backup.
Yeah.
Him and Rask, 2 shutouts combined, 1 apiece. I think the goaltending has been one of the best parts of this team early thus far.
Yeah, honestly, like I see this now. Like I'm comparing like the Patriots and the Bruins here. Like back when the Patriots drafted Jimmy Garoppolo, that's when Tom Brady was starting to show like he was human. But once Garoppolo came on this team and he was a new young quarterback, it just made him go up. It made him make his play more elite than it was before. And same thing with Rask. Rask was sliding going into last season, and then they pick up Halak, and then he was standing on his head in net playing insane. And then all of a sudden you just see Tuukka Rask elevating his game to being one of the top 5 goaltenders in the NHL. And that's one of the reasons why the Bruins made it to Game 7.
And I'm confident with either one of them
year.
between the pipes. I think they've looked great, and I'm very much looking forward. Moving on to baseball, the Washington Nationals sweeping the St. Louis Cardinals and going to their first World Series in franchise history. This is a great thing for Washington. I'm very happy for them. They don't have Bryce Harper as part of it.
Just saying, once you get a cancer out of the locker room, it's just this team is going to just go with it. Well, honestly, the Nationals did not have a great start to the season, starting off 18-32, had a 0.1 chance to make it to the World Series. But obviously they proved that wrong. They're young players like Juan Soto and other players like that, and then there's just their pitching staff, Max Scherzer, Steven Strasburg, Patrick Corbin. That's just a 3-headed monster that I don't see a lot of teams getting.
And Anibal Sanchez, too, almost threw a no-hitter in Game 1.
Yeah.
And then you got to take into account all the veterans. Howie Kendrick, longtime second baseman for the Angels, playing in Washington now. He was the National League Championship Series MVP, and he's 34 years old. So great production out of everybody, top to bottom in their lineup.
Yeah, even Zimmerman. He's older, 37, 38. He's turned a new leaf. He's acting like he's 23 again playing these playoffs. So it's crazy.
You can't forget about Anthony Rendon at third base. He's looked absolutely phenomenal for the Nationals.
Yeah.
I'm really excited for this Nationals team, and hopefully they can beat whoever in the American League East. Is Game 4 is tonight. Pitching matchup: Zach Greinke versus Masahiro Tanaka. And tomorrow, I believe it's going to be, I think, Verlander and.
Yeah, Verlander.
I want to say Paxton.
Verlander,
Paxton.
Yeah, but honestly, I feel like this series is going to come down to the pitching. For obviously Houston have the upper hand in this with pitching, but their lineup is stacked, but it's kind of inconsistent. Like Carlos Correa was projected to be an MVP of the league. This year he's kind of regressed. Like the bottom half of the Astros lineup isn't as good as people expected it to be, but obviously the Yankees, I think their pitching is going to be pivotal here because their lineup is stacked going down, and
they don't have their ace of the regular season, Domingo Germán, but they do. They got Luis Severino back. They have Paxton. They have Tanaka, who's lights out in the postseason despite his regular season record.
Honestly, I think Paxton might be an X factor here. Like if he's starting at Game 5, if this series goes to a Game 7, it's more than likely Paxton's going to get the call out of the bullpen or something like that. And he's been very inconsistent this season, but he's been picking up more consistency in the playoffs. So honestly, I think he's going to be a big X factor.
And I think the rain out last night was huge because it gives every pitcher another day of rest. So Greinke can throw tonight, and Verlander's able to throw Friday because they both received that rest that they needed. So I think that rain out may have hurt the Yankees a little bit, but we'll see how it plays out. What's your prediction and how many games? I'm gonna have to go Astros in 6.
I'm gonna go Yankees in 7. Because I hate the Yankees with a passion. I do not like them, but this offense to me is just too scary. Like all the way down, Judge, Stanton, just them two combined.
Stanton hasn't been playing much though in this series. Yeah. He's only played 1 game.
It just takes him to if he hits 1 home run, look out for that guy.
I'm just worried about Gleyber Torres. He's been hot for the Yankees. He had a 5 RBI game in Game 1 when they won.
Yeah, it's just Gleyber Torres has been hot like crazy. Didi Gregorius won one of the clutch players in baseball. Honestly, those 4 right there can scare the crap out of you. But for Houston, Jose Altuve, obviously an anchor of that. George Springer also, but Bregman, He's been pretty good, but nothing like compared to he was in the regular season. If he keeps digressing like I think he's going to, I think the Yankees have an upper hand there.
See, the thing for me and why I don't think the Yankees are going to win is the Astros starting pitching. Greinke, almost a Cy Young winner. He's been, as you keep saying, digressed a little bit, but I think he's still a strong arm. And then you got Verlander, who's lights out, and Garrett Cole, who's 19-0 since May.
Right, yeah, Garrett
He's
Cole's
a different
insane.
breed or something.
Yeah, Garrett Cole's insane.
So I think that the Astros pitching will propel them to a World Series against the Nationals. And fingers crossed the Yankees get eliminated here.
Yeah, I'm just going to say it honestly comes down to Game 4. Like, if the Yankees win Game 4, I honestly think they have a great chance of winning the series. But if Houston takes a win out of Game 4, I think the Yankees are just in too deep of a hole to climb out of.
Very much looking forward to it. They got games Thursday night and Friday night. Looking forward. So now just a little bit on the NBA. Jalen Brown was reportedly offered $80 million extension over 4 years, and he declined it. How do you feel about this move? Do you think Jalen Brown's worth more than that?
I feel Jalen Brown honestly could be worth to me like in the $25 million range because money in the NBA has really been thrown to everyone. Like, honestly, I think Jalen Brown's just comparing himself to other people. Like Redick, he got a huge contract. Victor Oladipo, I think that's what the Celtics are looking at. Like, they're similar player styles, and they play the same position. And Oladipo's has 3 more years in his deal, I want to say, in around $20 million. Mm-hmm. So I think that's what they're aiming for with Jalen Brown. But honestly, I just believe Jalen Brown just believes in his skill and thinks he is going to be a future star in this league.
I'm looking forward to seeing
years.
how the Celtics play out with Carson Edwards. He just hit 7 threes in a quarter and had 26 points in a quarter. That was ridiculous. I'm very much excited to see how this Celtics team.
It's just
Taco Fall on a 2-way contract, so he'll
Yeah.
be in the G League most of the year, but they did sign him. I'm very excited for the Celtics.
I'm excited for the Celtics too because honestly, Kyrie Irving didn't like. He's a great player. It just didn't work in Boston. Mm-hmm. It's just now they're back to Brad Stevens' style of a team where they can just run and gun and just have that offense, just hustle and play more. Honestly, I think what comes down is the Celtics is their interior defense. Mm-hmm. With a guy like Al Horford leaving for Philly, I don't think Enes Kanter and Robert Williams and Grant Williams and people like that can fill the void of what Al Horford brought to the Celtics. Mm-hmm. So if the Celtics, I believe they're going to be a 50-win team, but if they're not a 50-win team, it's going to be because of that interior defense.
Fair enough. Where do you see them placing in the Eastern Conference? I see them third behind the Sixers and the Bucks.
Yeah, I see them 3 or 4. 3 or 4. I think the Celtics can honestly flip-flop with the Raptors, but honestly, like it's either Sixers or Bucks at 1 or 2. Honestly, it's a flip. You can flip a coin to see who's going to be there, but Celtics, I think they're a lock for the 3 or 4 spot, but I don't know how they're going to do in the playoffs because Philly seems to choke in the playoffs every year, but honestly, if they have a veteran now like Al Horford, I think that's going to change.
Very excited to see how that plays out. Now let's get a little bit into high school. So it's been a bit since we last talked to you. Spartans fell to Westfield, I believe 42-14. They fell to Northampton 24-7. And recently, last week, lost to Minnechaug by a score of 34-7. They're going to Wacona on Saturday, I believe. I don't think it's Friday. I think it's Saturday. I've been a little surprised, especially after they blew out Putnam week 1. They've been pretty much silenced since. They lost Alex Joyce to an injury. What is the Spartans missing, Bren?
Their offensive line play, honestly, hasn't been too great. Aiden Bean loves to run out of the pocket and throw it down the field, but he hasn't been able to do that. It just seems once the ball is snapped to Bean, he drops back for a pass. There's always a defender in his face. But honestly, the running game was strong against Putnam and strong against Amherst, but ever since then, it just seems teams have figured them out or just key injuries to their offensive line. Like Ryan Delaney was a huge miss at the left tackle spot, a.k.a. Bean's blind spot, honestly. Mm-hmm. So if he can lock that down, Bean will obviously have more time, but it's just honestly having a freshman starting at left tackle, I don't think it was.
And Gabe Alsop, not a bad player. They got Christian Thomas, Wes Maurer, Lucas Ferguson, but all those guys need to just get their chemistry together, and I think if they turn that around, we could see an upset in the near future. They got 2 more games until senior night and then Thanksgiving after that. So Spartans will take on Wacona at Wacona and then Taconic at Taconic.
They have a chance to make the playoffs, so if they win out, they're in. So I don't know if that's going to happen, but I hope it does.
Very excited for them. Hopefully they can put a little magic together and win out this season. So then just touching a bit on the boys soccer, they're up to about 5 wins. I think they're a little under 500. Forgive me if I'm wrong. They're looking at a playoff berth.
Yeah.
Very excited for them, led by their senior captains. And then on the other side, the Lady Spartans, I believe they are about a 500 team. But they're on the outside looking in, I believe, a little bit for the playoffs. How are you feeling about their odds this year?
They play hard. Like, honestly, like, their defense is pretty good.
And Gianna Licori's looks solid.
Gianna Licori is a stud in that. Like, that's always the case. It seems to be like, it's just, I believe in this team. They believe in each other, obviously. Like, they have great chemistry.
Yeah, that's what I've heard is from this year, this is the best the chemistry's been in a while.
Yeah, they're a tight-knit group, and I think they can just get it done.
So very excited to see how their season plays out for them. And that pretty much wraps up our show. Thank you for tuning in. We're glad that you could be back with us after a 2-week delay. Looking forward to seeing how all the sports play out. And hockey starts today, so hockey right on the horizon. Very much looking forward. As for us here at LCAT, I'm Devin Dobeck alongside Brennan McLaughlin signing off on the latest.